All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Jermell Charlo and what he had to say about his upcoming fight with Brian Castano, but also Terence Crawford calling him out and the pound for pound list. All great conversations coming from Jermell Charlo. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to be in the 154-pound, 147-pound division, talking about Jermell Iron Man Charlo, who will be fighting this weekend against Brian Castano. Also, in an interview that he just gave, he had more than a little bit to say about Terence "Bud" Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. at 147 pounds, who very well may be both coming up into his weight class soon. But before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, let me thank you so much for coming to support the channel. If you would not mind, if you like the content, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos, which we do on a daily basis, and live streams that we have every morning, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. On the weekends, we go a little bit later. We start a little bit later, but always here for good boxing content for real hardcore boxing fans. So let's get into this. Jermell Charlo is going to be fighting Brian Castano for an undisputed title at 154 pounds. Brian Castano holds the WBO belt, and Jermell Charlo holds the rest of the belts, which are the IBF, the WBA, and the WBC. And they are having a rematch of a fight that took place last year. It's been postponed a couple times, but now it's on. It's going to be in, the fight's going to be in Los Angeles. And the winner of that fight, provided we don't get another draw, which I don't think we will be the undisputed champion at 154 pounds. Now, Jermell Charlo has held 3 belts in the division for a couple years now, and yet has yet to be named by anybody as one of the top 10 pound for pound best fighters in the world. Even though you have guys that are on many people's lists like Ioka, who's down there at 150 pounds, who's got multiple losses on his resume. You've got, and not 3 belts. You have guys like Juan Carlos Estrada, who has lost to other people on the list, got multiple losses, and does not have 3 belts, and hasn't come anywhere close to clearing out a major division. However, that is something Jermell Charlo has accomplished, even though he's had 1 loss, which he came back and avenged, but just does not get the respect that he's due. Now, in the midst of this, right, being asked about it, he talks about Terence Crawford and he talks about Errol Spence. In a separate interview, because to give you just a little bit of background information on it, Terence Crawford said that after he gets done beating Errol Spence Jr., that he's going to go up and beat Jermell Charlo. I do believe who he called Errol Spence Jr.'s cheerleader. Jermell Charlo says, look, after I get done with Brian Castano, I am not interested in Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford is not in my weight division. And on top of that, he is not going to get past Errol Spence Jr. So ain't no need for him to really talk. Ain't no need to talk about him. But also in talking about the pound for pound thing, he says, look, man, some people got Terence Crawford as the #1 pound for pound, and Terence Crawford ain't fought nobody, right? He said, people tell me that I haven't fought anybody. He's not fought anybody, right? But so, I mean, let's actually analyze that for a second. You know, for myself personally, I don't necessarily put everything on the names of the fighters that people have fought, right? Now, for me, the question is, how good of a fighter are you, right? If you look at the 4 scoring criteria in boxing, which is clean and effective punching, effective aggression, defense, and ring generalship, how well-rounded and how good is the fighter in all of those areas, right? Because that is how you score a boxing match. You don't score a boxing match based on who they fought before. You score a boxing match based on what they're able to do in the ring in those 4 scoring criteria in any given ring, in any given round, over the course of 12 rounds or 10 rounds if it's a non-championship fight. 8 round, 6 round, go on and on and on, right? Not to say that people's resumes are not important. However, there is most definitely, I believe, a big name bias when people talk about that, because, and I think this is what Jermell Charlo could be looking at, right? So take, for example, Jermell Charlo and his wins. Tony Harrison, who had one loss, he beat Tony Harrison. He beat Jason Rosario, who beat J-Rock. He beat an undefeated Erickson Lubin, and on go the list at 154. He's been a long reigning champion, and he's literally cleared out that division, right? But has he had the same names that Terence Crawford has had? No, he has not. Terence Crawford had named fighters like Ricky Burns, right? What stage of Ricky Burns' career was Ricky Burns in when he fought Terence Crawford? He has Yuriorkis Gamboa. He has Victor Postal. The most of the big name fighters that he has, however, are at welterweight in Sean Porter, Amir Khan, and Kell Brook. I think what people miss when you look at when the names of people's resume is when did they actually fight the guys? Did they fight them when they were champions? Did they fight them when they were in their prime? Or did they fight them closer to retirement, coming off of layoffs and the such, right? And if I was going to really critique Terence Crawford's resume relative to Jermell Charlo, that's what I would point to. But for the most part, I don't have a problem with Terence Crawford being named the #1 guy. He's my #1 guy, but not because of the names, not exclusively because of the names on his resume, but because of the fact that he's so well-rounded in all the scoring criteria in boxing, which again is how you score boxing matches, right? If you want to know who the better fighter is, you got to look at the scoring criteria that they use for boxing. And if somebody is a big puncher, but they have poor defense, if they are a very good ring general, but they can't break a paper bag with a punch, right? What would they do if you move different people into that weight class and you have a more balanced fighter fighting them, right? And that's what I would say what the pound for pound based on those scoring criteria should mean. And Jermell Charlo, in my opinion, has clean, effective punching, effective aggression. He has ring generalship when he wants to use it. For the most part, he's very, very aggressive, and he has good defense. And most important, and also the man has consistent results, and he has championship, and he's won championships in 3 different divisions, clearing out, and he is 1 fight from completely clearing out a division. However, that's not what a lot of these lists go for. Now, the interesting thing for me, though, is that there is a chance that we will be able to see Jermell Charlo and Terence Crawford, no matter what Jermell Charlo wants to say, if he wins the fight with Brian Castano. Because if the fight is not made between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford is the WBO champion, is the WBO super champion. He can move right up and become the mandatory for Terence Crawford and demand a fight with Terence Crawford, per WBO rules. So, all in all, man, I'm telling you that fight very, very well may happen. I'm certainly hoping that the Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford fight does happen. Haven't been hearing a lot about that. It may be that they're just still trying to cook it and trying to figure out how they're going to pay for it and all that stuff. But, Terence, ain't no love lost between Jermell Charlo and Terence Crawford. That's for sure. Because Terence Crawford said, look, man, he ain't beating Errol Spence Jr. and I ain't worried about him because he ain't even in my weight class. So people acting like Jermell Charlo was somehow clout chasing Terence Crawford. Nah, man, that ain't the case. But anyway, it is what it is. That's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.